It's the Orcs remade in hell versus the gibbering horrors of the void. Place your bets. This is round 2 of a one-day tournament, so I've had up to this point just one game, and it was against Halflings, which I won. Spoiler alert if you didn't watch it, but go watch it anyway. It was a very good game with lots of twists and turns, and it got quite close despite me being able to engage with some of the shooting components, but still having to contend with the trolls and the aeronauts, so it was very exciting indeed. So going into round 2, I was pretty... I wouldn't say hesitant or scared or anything like that, but you know, when you win that first round, you know it's only going to get harder from there. And harder it did become, because it was Andrew Whitehead of Direct Misfire fame. So he was their #1 fan before, but now he's taken the spot of Hugh to be actually part of the Direct Misfire podcast. And if you are looking for extra Kings of War content, I can highly recommend Direct Misfire for some great content from Down Under. And he is currently sporting some new Nightstalkers. He just got them finished last year, and they look fantastic. This is to replace what he usually took, which was the Undead. And he's taken them to Clash, and he's taken them some more, and I just can only assume that he'll also take them to ∞ So that's why he's practicing them here in this 2100 point game. So this whole tournament is 2100 points, which is an interesting amount, but that matches the upcoming 2-day tournament ∞ in August. So it's kind of like some practice. Now, it's a fantastic looking army for 2 reasons. It's not only fantastic because it is well painted, but it is also one of the rare instances in Australia of it being completely made with the display board in mind. So everything slots in, you know, like one of those little puzzles for kids where you got the different shapes. Everything slots in perfectly to this display board. And he did mention to me that this kind of has a drawback in the fact that he can only now replace any unit with a similarly shaped unit size. I'll go through my army list quite quickly, because we've already covered it in detail and in depth in that first video, if you want to know some of the rationale behind it. And it's the Riftforged Orcs that I'm taking. So this is kind of like the year of the Riftforged Orcs where I'm trying to make them work and try them out. It's a new army, and it's the one I've been trying to build up over the last 2 years. You can see some of those videos where I was first talking about them when they first got announced. So I have in this list of 2100 points, a regiment of Unforged Orcs, a horde of Riftforged Legionaries, so they're more elite, 1 troop of Riftwalkers, chaff, 1 horde of Hellstrikers, which are Dracons, really, you know, fast hammer unit with the Staying Stone upgrade, improve that nerve. Then I have some of the only shooting, 3 Ambrox, or Ambroxy, or Ambroxes. These are monsters that walk around with steady aim and shoot. So they're pretty good for shooting, and they also score, so that's like double usefulness. Then we have 1 War Drum to give some rally. We have a Stormforged Shrine for all kinds of spells that it can cast nearly all the time, and all of them, so it can actually cast multiple spells a turn, which is what makes it useful. If it could just cast 1 spell, it would suck. And also has a Fury Aura. Then I also have a Riftforger, which is a fantastic little individual that packs quite the punch, sporting a Blade of Slashing to make sure his 3 attacks really do hit a bit more often, because, you know, rolling 3 attacks is not fun. But what the whole combo is, just to preface any time it does happen, is that the Riftforger is the main target for Host Shadow Beast from the Stormforged Shrine, which pretty much bumps him up to effectively 7 attacks, 3 and then 4 for the Host Shadow Beast. Then I also have a Stormbringer on Hellstrike Manticore, so that's just your standard kind of monster hero that flies. And then finally, the formation, the Iron Boots, which includes 2 regiments of Riftforged Legionaries and 1 regiment of Reborn Legionaries. All of them get a nerve bump, and the Reborn Legionaries, which are the even more elite infantry in this list, they get a Wild Charge D3 aura for Orc only, which only affects the Unforged Orcs in this list as well as themselves, because if you have an aura, you get to affect yourself as well. So they really just have Wild Charge D3, which, you know, sometimes comes up, sometimes it doesn't. So that's my army. It's quite fun, actually. I, on newbie, have tried iterations without the Ambroxes. That's where it started. And if you take a look at my older videos, I never mentioned them at all because I wasn't particularly enamored with, you know, some resin monsters. But it really helps in just making it more interesting to play as you start off, because otherwise you're just moving up infantry and just trying to get into range. And being able to put some pressure on means they have to come to you, or at least you're just having fun rolling dice when you're shooting. So that is my army. Unfortunately, going against Nightstalkers means that shooting is not nearly as fun because you hit far less. And the Nightstalkers that Andy has brought is an interesting list in that it's a variety, a large variety, lots of a single of everything that's taken. There is no duplications, and that's what makes it both interesting but also difficult to play against, because then you have a lot of variations in kinds of profiles and speeds, so that you just got to try and keep it all in your head. So it starts off with this 2100 points of Nightstalkers. We have a horde of Scarecrows, which are just classic, almost zombie kind of unit, so just a big tar pit. One regiment of Reapers, which are definitely a hammer unit. One troop of Phantoms, which are chaff. One horde of Butchers, kind of anvil-y hammer. And then we have a regiment of Shadowhounds, which you don't see much, but after they got their upgrade where they have Ferocious Charge, they get +1 to hit on the charge as long as they're not hindered, so that means they can hit quite hard. And they have Helm of the Drunken Ram to even make them more effective if they manage to get that unhindered charge, because Helm of the Drunken Ram's also pretty useless if you happen to be hindered. Then we have a regiment of Soulflayers, because you really do need them in Nightstalkers, even at least one. And one horde of Fiends, which with Sir Jesse's Boots of Striding. And so the Fiends is probably the least seen, actually, because they're pretty hard to use. They're quite tall, they're large cavalry, but they hit on 4s, which makes them not great, because they hit, while they do have a lot of attacks, I think it's like 25 attacks or something, it just, the damage output becomes pretty poor when they hit on 4s. They've only got crushing 1, so they're hard to really get their value out of compared to other units like like Reapers or Butchers or Soulflayers, which are just a whole lot easier to be useful and don't cost nearly as much. Then we have a regiment of Needlefangs, also chaff. One Shadowhawk, which is quite a terrifying giant on a smaller base, hits on 3s. So you definitely don't want to be on the bad side of him, and his bad side being the front. And then we have one of the most annoying individuals in the game. It's ᴰᴜ-ʟᴜ, the Wailing Shadow, which is a special banshee that hits like a truck and has really annoying ensnare, wind blast shenanigans where she can do damage with it, but also the ensnare can actually instigate a combat if she manages to enthrall something into her base, like into contact, that initiates a combat. So there's plenty of times where she's used that to really either shut things down or to even destroy them, because it's just a fantastic kind of combo. Then we have a Dread Fiend, which is the hero version of a fiend, so it's just a unit strength monster version of it. So yeah, got a couple of attacks, 6 attacks I think, and then one Void Lurker with the Blade of Slashing. So that's your standard dragon, and the Blade of Slashing just helps him hit once more often. So it's a very varied list. There's not many things to say about it apart from that it's just got a bit of everything. It doesn't lean into any particular kind of tactic, and I guess that's part of its strength, is that it's not relying on one thing or another. It's not just Soulflayers, it's not just Butchers, and it's not just Reapers. It's kind of got a bit of everything at different speeds. So I guess the hardest part, were I to be playing something like this, would be to try and get it to all hit at the same time, because it's very easy to throw out random things by themselves and lose them because they're just all going off on their own, and the enemy can then deal with them at piecemeal. So it's everything is supposed to confuse the enemy but still be coordinated, and I'd probably say that's the hardest part. But I know Andrew's been having quite a lot of success with this list, because he's been doing quite well at a lot of tournaments. There hasn't been a lot of tournaments, but the tournaments he's been to, I've heard he's done quite well. And whether it has been with Undead or more recently with the Nightstalkers, I'm not sure. Definitely at Clash he was with the Nightstalkers. So it'd be good to see how he plays it firsthand. And so that's what's going to happen here. But first, let's look at the army more closely. So here we are. He's gone for this kind of... The whole scheme is that first, the Nightstalker stuff is all in the kind of the blue shades. But then you can notice that on the bases, so I'll use the cursor here, you can see that there's kind of a line, a blazing line where we're actually crossing between 2 dimensions. So we have the void, I suppose, here, the grassy dimension, and then wherever it crosses that line, even in the, here, I'd call it the Z-axis, but where you can see it's crossing over that limb there, we've got what they actually are perhaps in reality. I think that's what he's going for here, is trying to show a kind of charred reality on the other side. So these are perhaps all victims, and then they're all, this is what they are in the void, and this is what they are in reality, are these charred corpses kind of thing. So it's a really cool idea, firstly, like this, because you can just see that you've got these random segments of it, but when we see it all together, then you'll see that it all really works. Here's some more. So yeah, you can see that very effectively here. We have some Basilean troops that are all encased in kind of, it looks like they're encased in kind of ash and stuff. So does it even bring to mind Pompeii or something like that? And I'm hoping I'm getting that kind of vibe right. And you can see we've got these columns here and stuff like that. So it's really like almost, yeah, like the Pompeian Roman ruins. And then just on that other side of the veil, we have the void creatures that now have taken their souls, perhaps. So that's the feeling I get there. He hasn't even told me anything about the fluff of his army or anything like that. It's just what I'm seeing here. But I was really enjoying looking at all these different models, and yeah, just, you know, obviously I took the pictures. You know, I tend to not take a lot of pictures if it's like of the army, if it's just, you know, someone just putting together some random models, you know, proxies and stuff. But this is probably some of the greatest amount of effort I've seen in the armies so far. You know, we've got a lot of hobby, but for someone to make a display board base, it's really interesting. Here we go. Oh, there's the Shadow Hulk. Yeah, good. We zoomed out a bit. So there's the Shadow Hulk. I've actually used this kit to make a Coral Giant before, because I think this looks quite shark heady like. So I used the rest of the body as a standard giant, but kept this for my shark head. So you might see that in my older videos, and maybe more recent videos when I start using the Trident Realms. But yeah, and then we got, yeah, this guy. Something's going on here. What's going on here? There's all this kind of tendrily stuff coming out there. So I assume it's something sinister going on with these poor Basileans. And there it is. You put it all together, and you have this beautiful, beautiful display board where we have, wherever is the green, we have the actual Nightstalkers. This is supposed to be a doppelgangers unit, which was not being used, but it's here. And then wherever is the more charred, yeah, we just kind of get all this, you know, what looks like burned or rusted kind of components of a Basilean force. So it could be some corrupted empire has cast some terrible spell and unleashed this upon their own troops. And so that's what we've got here, and it just all so perfectly slots in. Even the fact that when you put all the bases together, and it makes this whole temple, this kind of, you know, Acropolis, the Pantheon. So you've just got everything, and this all looks very like handmade. Like obviously, I think the pillars are probably 3D print, but yeah, you put it, and look, even a part of the Shadow Hog, that shielded arm, is all encrusted. So it's a lot of effort to put this all together. But yeah. If he wants to have new units, he will have to also not only fit into the slot, but completely like redo the basing again. He'll have to recreate the effect one more time. So I hope he's written down what exactly he did, because if that's one place I usually fall over when trying to add to some units a long time after the fact, it's usually because I've forgotten the painting formula. And so I start painting, I'm like, oh, that red, that doesn't look like the red I had before. But you know, there's first world problems. But otherwise, this is a fantastic army, and let's hope it does well, because mine is not nearly as fancy. And here we are. So let's talk about the battlefield. So obviously, yeah, here's my Riftforged Orcs. My whole look, which I will introduce into a formal video where I actually go through them unit by unit, like I tend to want to do, is all about invading the modern world, perhaps Manhattan, perhaps New York, I don't know. And we've got portals for pretty much every unit, where I could fit, because some units just didn't want to have a portal. Showing that they're like invading through these portals, because they're Riftforged Orcs. They come through rifts, right? Like, that's why they're Riftforged. So yeah, here's some rifts for you. Plenty of rifts. So the battlefield first, that's what we'll talk about. We've got a hill. One hill on either side. So one here on the left, one hill on the far right. Then obstacle and an obstacle jutting out here. So it's almost mirror image, but they're all on more his side. And he doesn't care about them because he hasn't got any shooting. Well, no real shooting. Then we have a forest right in the middle, which is quite annoying, so I'll be shooting into a lot of cover and stealthy. And then a long forest over here, so it's good to have always some different sized shapes, or different shapes in general for difficult and terrains. And then here we have some flats, so there's a nice little pond, and then one piece of terrain that will actually not affect the battle whatsoever, over here on the right, which is another flat piece of terrain. And then we have two blocking pieces, one here, and which really annoyed me because I had to try and deploy in between them. So the scenario, because that'll help explain what we're doing here, is hold the line. And I've conveniently placed the points that you can get if you are holding this area. So there's a narrow strip in the middle, and the middle one is worth the most, with the outer two, the left and right, one less. So 2, 3, and 2. And to hold it, you have to have a unit wholly within 1. So it's very explicitly stating you can't have something just kind of straddling the line and be like, I'm now holding 3 because that's the one I don't have enough unit strength in. You have to commit, and if it can't be obvious, then I don't think you get it. Something like that. So there's none of those shenanigans in hold the line. You have to hold it properly. And so let's go into the deployment with this in mind. So I want the middle and I want the left. I'm pretty much, as you can see, I've given up the right. Who wants the right? I don't want the right. If I can just get the middle and the left, I'll be fine. And so what I have the fast contingent here on the left, which, well, kind of fast. We've got the Hellstrikers and the Stormbringer on the Hellstrike Manticore, and with them also the Unforged Orcs, because I started running out of room. Why did I run out of room? Well, it's because I need to be between... My whole army tends to want to work together in this big, crunchy, big blob. But I've got blocking terrain here, and if I want to be able to contest this middle bit at all, I have to deploy between these two, because if I instead deploy over here on the right, I will find it quite difficult to come around and get into this middle portion. That said, maybe it would have been a better idea, because I think there's more distance here on the right than there is between these two buildings, but, you know, I'm a man of habit, and I would start putting things here in the middle, and it's just how it ended up. But anyway, so that's why I've got things in between. I've got these orcs angled here, so this is a horde of legionaries ready to kind of just go forwards and not get stuck against that building. We've got Ambroxes dotted throughout the line, so there's one here, one here, one here. So kind of just spread out across the left half of my army. And then the right half of my army are just all the rest of the infantry regiments. So I've got my two standard, like, reborn legionaries. So those are the ones from the formation, the Iron Boots, the regiments, and then the reborn ones are behind them, and they're a good source of inspiring. And then right over here on the right are the Rift Walkers, and I wanted the chaff more on the right because, as I could see, he was starting to deploy a lot of fast stuff here on his, well, on my right, his left. And so I wanted at least one piece of chaff, because you know what, these guys, my orcs are not going to get the charge out on anything because they're speed 5, even with the ones with the wild charge. So I need to have something just to hold his fast components up and force them to either charge it or just stay back, because at least the Rift Walkers are a little bit fast, they're speed 7. And then right in the middle, which is where they always need to be, is the Stormforged Shrine with its aura and its spells, the War Drum with its rally, and there's the Riftforger, who needs to be near the Stormforged Shrine so that he can get his Host Shadow Beast and get powered up. So that's my deployment. It's all quite crammed, and I think this is going to be a running theme with, you know, using orcs, is that they have these big bases, so it's always going to feel a little bit more crammed than what I'm used to, because I had to, up until this point, I've not really used any heavy infantry kind of armies. And the way Andy deployed, so we have on the left, to face off against my very fast units, we have the Shadow Hulk, we have Phantoms with Butchers behind, so that's the whole left there, done. So yeah, it's definitely not inconsiderable, but are Hellstrikers better than that? I don't know. Maybe they're better than Butchers, they're better than a Shadow Hulk, but they're not better than both combined. So we'll have to figure out that equation somehow. The middle is definitely heavily fortified with all kinds of units. So there's the Soul Flayers right there with ᴰᴜ in front, ready to zip off and be really annoying. We have the horde of Scarecrows just ready to be unit strength right in the middle, and behind them are the Reapers. Now more here on the right we have there's the Dread Fiend, so that's the kind of unit with strength 1 hero monster. And we have the Void Lurker, which is the dragon monster, and so that's going to be doing some annoying dragon stuff. And then finally here on the right we have, no, that's the Reapers. So there's the Reapers, they're the Fiends, of course it's a bigger base, so yeah, that's the Fiends over there. Sorry, so the Fiends are behind the Soul Flayers, whereas we have the Reapers on the right with the Needlefangs and the Shadow Hounds. So that's his deployment. So we've got heavy hammers on the left, lots of unit strength in the middle, and then fast stuff-ish on the right. The Reapers are not that fast, they're fast, they're speed 6. So, he's going to pretty easily get this 2, but can I just hold and keep these 2 and 3? Let's find out. Turn 1. I don't know why I need to say it, you can read it on the screen, but I hope it helps. So I've moved up, I got first turn, wonderful! So I can move up, waste time rolling dice shooting things, because I can tell you, the first few turns of shooting felt very ineffective. Either things were stealthy in cover, or just stealthy full stop. I think I just tried shooting at the Shadowhog, because at least, hey, he's really tall. But yeah, otherwise I just moved up to try and fit everything in this gap, and I can tell you, it's already not working very well. But, you know, at least we're in. So we just need to get a little bit further and we can start being in that scoring zone. On the left, I've decided to just shuffle my Hellstrikers across to the side, because there's no reason to really put them up much further, because I don't want them to get charged by Phantoms. What I don't mind getting charged by Phantoms is my Stormbringer on Hellstrike Manticore, so he's just kind of gone forward and just been like, well, you could charge him. And yeah, the Unforged Orcs are going forward. There's also some chaff, but by being chaff, they will slow down my Hellstrikers. But, you know, something needs to get hit first, and I don't want my Hellstrikers to just go out there and kill some Phantoms and then be stuck with their bums in the air. So yeah, it's a pretty fast turn. Oh, well, there you go. I did shoot the Soul Flayers. I do tend to like shooting Soul Flayers because I know how dangerous they are, but being 13-15, it doesn't take many shots to take them down. So if you can get some lucky rolls, you never know. So yeah, 2 shots there. So in Andy's turn 2, he has kind of moved up. He's going to be hesitant with this left side pretty much the first half of the game, just as he doesn't want to push them forward into Hellstriker range. So they're just pretty much just shuffling around. Whereas he's much more confident with this forest here, so he's just moving right up, able to weather some fire, but he's got terrain that will be slowing him down at pretty much every juncture. And over here, the fast units have come right through. No, and it's turn 2. But yeah, there's the Void Lurker. I was just hoping there might be a picture of it, but alas, no. So the Void Lurker has gone alongside that piece of blocking terrain, so now it's completely out of my line of sight, and it's going to make its way around my behind to try and get some rear or flank charges. So that's not good. So it's already time to start coming up with plans in turn 2. And so what plans do I have? Well, now I'm just kind of filling out the gaps here and trying to get my line a bit more straight rather than angled and being all kinds of trouble where I'll get all stuck. And so that's what I've done here. I've moved up. I've got the Ambrox out there, so now that this horde can fit there. The Unforged Orcs have moved forward a little bit further, and so the Hellstrikers overall are just kind of waiting, being like, hey, you wanna charge some Orcs? Why not charge some Orcs? And you can see there's the Void Lurker going around. So the first part of my plan to make sure it doesn't just jump around and start getting into terrible situations is the Riftforgers have completely turned about face to just, you know, project threat here. So while I would prefer that they were kind of looking this way, unfortunately I don't have enough room here because, again, the bases are so big. So I've decided to just, all I could do was really just turn about face and at least prevent it from going right here and then looking at the rear of my army. So what it can do, it can land around here, just off to the right of my Riftwalkers and look at their flank. But what it can't do is get completely around the back and then have access to all kinds of units. Because right now, if it does go here, the only units it can charge and actually have a spot to sit in are the Reborn and the Riftwalkers. Everything else, there's just no room. And so that's the plan, is that if it gets here, it's not going to be able to just shoot off and smash into a side of the army. And then I also have the Riftforger coming down here. So what's the best thing to knock down a dragon? Well, it's just a little hero. So the Riftforger has come in to deal with him when needed. So yeah, that's about it. So I've moved everything up. I've kind of somehow decided that I should stagger my line. So I've put this regiment in front of that regiment, and you'll see very soon that was a terrible idea. I am trying to shoot ᴰᴜ here, but you can imagine how hard it is when it's something stealthy and individual, but still, when you get lucky and you hit, then Ambrox start to do damage. So that's at least 3 damage there. And so now, here's what I was premonitioning, was the fact that by sneaking my flank up, for whatever reason, I was just like, oh, let's just stagger my line, so that when these guys charge in, who can't see, by the way, something else will be able to charge them. But what that did do was just stupidly open up a flank for the Needlefangs, which I probably saw and thought, flank Needlefangs, he wouldn't take that. Why would he take that? What could you possibly gain from flanking with some crappy chaff unit? And yeah, 2 damage, you don't gain much at all. That's true. But what it does do is it really blocks up my whole line, because in this current situation, what we have here is my retaliation can be these guys can swing out to this point here to countercharge it, and now suddenly they'll be in the forest, visible to all of these units, and maybe they might not even kill them because they've only got 12 attacks. It's not crazy. And at the same time, oh yeah, I've got a rear charge with this one, but they would swing out here. So I'd suddenly have 2 units completely out of their protective cover of being in line with this blocking terrain, and they'll just be right out here. Yeah, even if they do kill them, what can I do? I can just turn to face all of this. I'll get a flank, or I'll get a front, or I'll get something, and they'll be too close to it. It was not smart. I'm not pleased with what I did here, putting this forward. You know, sometimes you just think, oh yeah, you know, what you should do is stagger your lines, but sometimes you just forget the context of the situation. Just like, you know, yes, you should sometimes stagger your lines so that, you know, you're denying a double charge on something or something else. But when they can't even double charge anyway, like that wasn't even a problem, then what else is happening? And it turns out a flank from Needlefangs, which, yeah, sounds silly, but here we are. So yeah, I've got a nice flank from Needlefangs, and that's about it. That's the only combat going on, but the Void Lurker did indeed take up that position here to just look down my left, while everything else is just slowly moving up. But it's thanks to these buildings, I will be limiting how many things can charge me at once. So I guess I did that well. I just didn't do it well enough insofar as not giving a flank to Needlefangs. So that would have been the perfect. If that was in a flush line, nothing would have gone wrong. Needlefangs would just be, I don't know, sitting here being like, charge me. But instead, I have led to this situation. So good work, me. But yeah, you can see Andy in turn 2 still being very hesitant with his Shadowhawk Butcher Phantom and contingent over there on the left, whereas everything else is getting into range and trying to see things, but still everything's also holding back, because yeah, one range 20 units such as the Hellstrikers does clear out this kind of whole left half that doesn't want to get too close, so that's why the Fiends are even quite hesitant. And here we have a dead Ambrox, so ᴰᴜʀᴜ did charge into an Ambrox and killed it, so that's wonderful. One dead Ambrox, and there we go. Yeah, everything's approaching. Turn 3. So, what do I do to deal with all these different fronts that I'm now faced with? Well, I decided to just move back these guys that got charged in the flank, so I just straight up moved them back in line. They're flush, no more flanks. Okay, cool, I fixed it after the fact. All I did was suffer 2 damage. But I knew I just couldn't charge out there with the other regiment, because they would get stuck here, so now I'm going to try and shoot off Needlefangs, which is stealthy. Not great, but that's what this Ambrox has to do, and this Ambrox will try and contribute as well. Even if there's going to be cover, you got to roll it, because I need to get rid of them somehow, and I can't charge them right now because I don't want to do a rear charge. So, wonderful. To deal with the Void Lurker, I have turned my Riftforged troop to just face the Void Lurker, and that also includes most of the areas he can get to. So he can jump over here, for instance, so he could turn, go 10 inches, and then turn again, because he obviously doesn't want to go 20 and then just be facing into the corner like a dunce. So he will probably jump over here, or she. And it's a cool model. It's the Terror, but with wings. Very cool. Wings taken from the Demon Prince set, the old Demon Prince set from Games Workshop. So yeah, that's what I have to deal with, is just trying to keep this guy down. But I do have my old Riftforger ready to go punch him, so at least once I drop him, then I can start pounding into him with all the other kinds of orcs. But for now, I'm still pretty happy, because if you take a look at all the units, there is nowhere it can plop down apart from into Riftwalkers. So go ahead, take a charge into my Riftwalkers, and just please ignore the rest of my army, please. On my left, I'm getting a bit more bold, mainly because now finally the Unforged Orcs are getting more and more into the fray, so they just keep going forwards, and the Hellstrikers are just coming up behind them, being just waiting to pounce on whoever takes the bait. So that's the current situation on the left. But yeah, not many combats, just some shooting. How did I get 6 damage onto ᴰᴜʀᴜ? These are things that I do wonder, but I don't have a good answer for. Oh, no. Yes, I do. I do have a good answer. The lightning bolt from my Stormforged Shrine. It's got nothing else to do, really, so it's just firing off lightning bolts. Yes, good old Stormforged Shrine. It's got lightning bolt 3, but with up to +3 from nearby units that are Riftforged, and it does have that. So yeah, lightning bolt 6, 3 damage. Not bad. So she hasn't got that high a nerve. I think it's like -12, so, you know, it's not outside the realm of possibility that I could just lightning bolt her off, so that's the plan. But yeah, I didn't manage to shoot off really anything else, or anything. I didn't shoot off anything. And so that means it's now time to get charged. So the Amber Orcs did manage to do 1 damage to the Needlefangs, which only earned it being the target of the Needlefangs. So the Needlefangs have charged the poor Amber Orcs there. We also have the Phantoms just going in as chaff into my horde, and so that the Fiends, obviously there they are, waiting for the Phantoms to die, and then, you know, classic thing, so there's the Phantoms doing their job. They have abandoned the Butchers, but that's because the Shadowhawk's like, you know what, I'm just going to go into these Unforged Orcs, that should be easy. So the Unforged Orcs are now being attacked by the Shadowhawk, which is good, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to just draw them out, because otherwise they were going to get charged by the Unforged Orcs. I was within 10 inches, and time was up. We have a double charge into 1 regiment here, with both the, there's the Soul Flayers and there's the Dread Fiends, so that's all they could see from behind that forest. So that makes sense. They should take out that regiment there, while everything else is kind of just waiting. So the Reapers are stuck. They've been making their long journey across that terrain, and they're still not really involved at all, so they'll have to wait for all this to get out of the way somehow. And the Scarecrows are just kind of like, oh, I don't know what we'll do, but I guess with unit strength. And finally, the Shadowhounds are now also doing the play of coming around the side to harass me. Oh, and there's the Void Lurker. So the Void Lurker, what it's actually done is charged my Riftforger. So that's cool. Oh, sorry about that. So it charged the Riftforger with the idea of just clear it off, and now it doesn't have to worry, and it can then maybe even continue on. So the only reason it's turned this way is because it's got these tentacles that just kind of just poke right out. So it just had to turn it so he could actually make contact properly. So yeah, we got the Shadowhawk, ᴰᴜ, I think that's ᴰᴜ going into my Amber Orcs? It might not be. No, it has to be. It has to be. Otherwise, because I can't just move next to it, so it must have, yeah, be fighting my Amber Orcs. Carnage everywhere. So let's see what kind of damage. Yeah, so she did charge it. Wonderful. So another Amber Orcs claimed by ᴰᴜ. She's killed 2 of them. So that's just, they're precious pieces of unit strength, I'll have you know. And the Phantoms managed to do 2 damage to my Orcs, which was also not nice. We got a blurry action shot from where I put down the put down the camera and obviously took a picture. And just 4 damage. So this he really didn't roll very well. But I mean, these are hindered Soul Flayers, and hindered Soul Flayers are not happy Soul Flayers. So yeah, we got hindered Soul Flayers, so they just do a little bit of damage. And the Dread Fiend, I think, did the bulk of the damage just by itself. So a bit disappointing. So yeah, I'm definitely going to hold there. And here, he did do 7 damage with his Shadowhawk, with his Void Lurker, which is a good amount. That's not bad. So he's turned it around facing the correct way. But the problem is, 7 damage and getting him wavered would normally be fine if it wasn't for the Stormforged Shrine being nearby. The Stormforged Shrine does have the Fury Aura, so I will get a chance to at least hit him back and hopefully ground him so that other things can take him out. 5 damage on the Unforged Orcs, they don't care. They might have pretty low nerve, but not that low. And so I think this is where things like, you know, the monsters, so you can see like the Void Lurker and the Shadowhawk, they don't have, they have high quality attacks, but they don't have many. So when they go into something, say, like especially Unforged Orcs, which are just some trash, some units would get rid of them really quickly, but the Shadowhawk will definitely struggle just trying to put enough wounds through to kill, to rout them. So. Turn 4. Now, things are getting a bit interesting because I am able to strike back. So yeah, obviously, most of the cases it's just countercharge. So countercharge with the Legionaries that happen to be a horde. It's bloody confusing. I've got a double charge, so I'm countercharging with the Orcs and charging with the Hellstrikers into the Shadowhawk, so hopefully we'll take that guy down. We'll have we're flank charging the Needlefangs, because that Amber Orcs is definitely not going to be able to take out the Needlefangs by itself, and so I've gone into the flank with this regiment of Legionaries, and then this regiment of Legionaries has gone into these Soul Flayers, because they've already got 2 damage on them, so I reckon I can just do a little bit more to take them down. And what I also have done is turned a few things to face this Void Lurker. So I've got the chaff here, the Riftwalkers are facing the Void Lurker, while the Riftforger can hopefully at least ground it, while these Reborn Legionaries have turned to face the Shadowhounds, because I know they're coming next, and I need something to just keep an eye on them, and so why not some crushing 2 12 attack guys? So, which will work out for me? Well, it was a very exciting turn. So first, you'll notice that the Soul Flayers are dead, so it turns out when they've already got 2 damage on them, these guys can get through it. Then we also have here The Needlefangs are gone, so that's helpful. Some chaff gone. The Phantoms are gone, also helpful. So that's all the chaff gone. Soul Flayer's gone, but most excitingly, somehow the Void Lurker's gone. So I roll pretty much the full amount of damage that a Host Shadow Beasted Riftforger can do. Now, how could I cast Host Shadow Beast onto him when I can't see it? Well, it's thanks to the magic of the Anvil of the Rift. So as he casts spells, his first spell has to, obviously, it's just a normal rule. So let's say I cast Bane Chant. I'd get Bane Chant +3, so it's Bane Chant 4. So I'll probably cast it like on these guys here or something. Like I would have, or maybe these, probably these ones here. So, but then every subsequent spell will be cast with 1 less spell dice. So that's bad, but you know, that's so you can't cast infinitely. So eventually you'll have 0 spell dice. But that one doesn't need line of sight. So the first spell has to go into something you can see, and then that starts a chain reaction where your second spell, say a Bane Chant 3, going onto this unit, and then a Host Shadow Beast, or a Host Shadow Beast 4 down here. And so I obviously cast Host Shadow Beast onto him at some point, got it off, and then he gets to go in with 7 attacks. 4 of them are crushing 3, 3 of them are crushing 2, and the Void Lurker is only defense 4, so he takes a lot of damage. And then it did really come down to the dice for me rolling really hot with the nerve twice. So that's how it all happened, and we were all quite shocked. But suddenly that rear threat is gone, and so yeah, not bad at all. Now, these guys must have been in combat with it. Yeah, I must have. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I must have been able to just see him within arc. So yeah, my Riftwalker was all in combat, giving a flank. So actually that helps. You know what? Now it doesn't sound so spectacular that the Riftwalker managed to take him out by itself. I think what the spectacular thing was that the Riftforger just managed to tank the hits and then fight back. So okay, there we go. But yeah, poor Void Lurker just kind of was being very sneaky and got punished for his sneakiness. So far so good. Over here, unfortunately, while I did do a respectable amount of wounds, it's a 6 plus some other dice, so maybe 10, unfortunately, still not enough. So the Hellstrikers, compared to the rolling I was doing before, I remember with the Hellstrikers, I'm like, oh, wow, geez, this is a lot of 1s and 2s to hit. So yeah, they didn't do nearly as well. But, you know, we've definitely dented the Shadow Hulk, so hopefully we can take it out before those Butchers come in, because they're right there, and I think they're in range of some things. At least the Unforged Orcs. And so, in response, in his turn too, Andy finally gets to charge in with his Fiends, and so that's the idea, is they're just gonna, that's what's supposed to happen. The Phantoms were just there as a mere distraction. They have perished, and through the mist of Phantom bits come the Fiends ready to plow through my horde of Legionaries. But I'm hoping that they can hold up to them, because, you know, like I said when I was introducing the Fiends, I think they're rather shit. They're just crushing 1 and melee 4+. A lot of attacks, but what? I'm a huge unit. I got Rally. I should be fine. And then over here we got, well, yeah, this is the silly situation. So after killing those Needlefangs, I was like, wow, I'm killing all kinds of stuff. I just didn't really reform them. I might have shuffled them or something, but I didn't turn to face the, you know, I don't know, the Reapers in my flank. So yeah, Reapers in my flanks are definitely not a good time. While the Dreadfiends just going into these this regiment just to do some more damage. The Shadowhounds don't have much choice in what they can do, so they go into the Riftwalkers, but yeah, obviously they're going to get charged by some other things. And yeah, so the Butchers have gone into the Unforged Orcs, while the Shadow Hulk using his Slayer well to go into the Hellstrikers. So yeah, it's a not great situation. And there's Sinistra going into the Stormbringer to just ground it. So there's combats pretty much happening in every situation. The only thing not in combat are the Shrines, the War Drum and the Shrine, One Emperor Ox and the Reborn and the Riftforger. Everything else is in combat, so how does that go? Oh, and yeah. The Scarecrows now realizing they don't have much to contribute because, well, they don't have much combat potential. They've been really slow, and there's actually still no units that have gone over to this right side, which I had said right at the start, I'm not going to go for it. And so it'd be kind of silly if he just left it there, that no one would contest it. So he's decided to walk his Scarecrows over to at least get the 2 victory points that are just free to grab. And if anything, that might be one difficult part about his list, is while there's a lot of stuff, there's not, I guess, there's the only thing in his list that he could just leave somewhere, like the Needlefangs, but he did need to use it as chaff, so, and they did get that flank charge, so you can't say that they were useless. And so combat's going in here, and so, first one, yes, okay, so yeah, this is how I always do it. I have a zoomed out one, and then I just kind of talk about them all without going through them, so but I'm never sure if I take enough pictures, so that's why I do this. So yeah, we got the Shadow Hounds go ripping right through the Riftwalkers, but that's okay, because the Reborn are coming in, and they will smack them with some really big bloody hammers. Lots of hammers. That's probably one thing I wish the Riftforged had. Weapon variety. I don't mind hammers, but you know what's cool? Great swords. Giant honkin' axes. A scythe thing. So if anything, I'd just like a lot of variety of weapons, but you know, that's okay. That's for the re-release of the Riftforged in 23 years. Well, yeah, a flank of Reapers, even hindered, definitely will kill you. So there goes that regiment. The other regiment stood up to the Dreadfiend, so I mean that's good, I suppose. And then zooming out, yeah, they just reform a bit. So that's not a good situation because there's all kinds of flanks facing those Reapers, and I don't want to give them another one. Whereas over here we got blurry action shot. Don't think that was a real picture. That was probably just me trying to get the wounds there. Here 12 damage, so that's okay. 12 damage on my Legionaries. They're 21, 23. They'll tank it. And then 6 damage here with the Shadowhawk, so that's okay. Can also take that, and just 2 damage from ᴰᴜʀᴜ, so I can definitely handle that. But unfortunately, Unforged Orcs could not take on Butchers, so while everything else has taken damage but still holding, I lost my Unforged Orcs. That's okay, that's how the process works. The Unforged die and they get reforged and they'll come back and they'll get some revenge as new Legionaries. Good on them. Turn 5. Now things are getting exciting because it's countercharge time, and so hopefully, even without their Thunderous, these Hull Strikers will be able to take out that Shadowhawk and turn to face the Butchers with, well, a bit of damage on them, so we'll see how they go. I'm also countercharging here with the Stormbringer. And then everything else is just countercharges, right? So apart from this, so this is a charge with the Reborn into the Shadowhound, so hopefully we'll just take them right out. And then over here, well, actually I did something rather smart. We do still play with Withdraw in Australia. I guess we just take after the Americans a bit more. And so I did use that. I went back 1 inch and charged into the flank of the Reapers. Why not? It will be at -1 to hit, obviously, because the withdraw rule says so. But, you know, with that crushing one, I reckon I should get through that, and I might even get a Bane Chant on them if I'm lucky. So yeah, lots of charges going on, and yeah, we'll just see what can be taken out. And so I do 14 damage on the Fiends. Fantastic. But I don't take them out. I must have rolled double 1 or a 2. I think if it was double 1 I would have taken a picture, but I think they're 16, 18, so you know, I'm getting really close, but I must have rolled a 3 or something terrible. So we sit here, and you know what I don't want to do is take another charge from them, because these guys, yeah, I guess they hit on 4s and crushing 1, but they don't get any worse. They're not like a typical cavalry unit where, their first charge, if you weather that, you'll be fine. So they're unlike that. They will be just as powerful again. And so I don't know if I can take another 10 damage, because that's how much they took last time. Will they take another 10 damage? I don't think. That's them gone. Over here, just do 6 damage, but you know, it's just 12 attacks, so yeah, I'm starting to chip away at the Shadowhounds, but at least they won't be very good because they've lost their Thunderous Charge. And here, just 7 damage in the flank, but that is the problem now with the new Withdraw. It's not as easy, it's not just the perfect thing to do when you can see it, because now you have to take into account the -1, so didn't do as great. So I'm still stuck here with a Dreadfiend in my flank. So was that the best? I'm not sure. But then I don't know, I didn't think I could kill a Dreadfiend just hitting it in the front. So if I had to have a flank charge from something, I'd prefer it from the Dreadfiend than from the Reapers, because that's what would happen if I went back into the Dreadfiend. And so that's what happens in their turn. So yeah, his turn, obviously these guys are charging to the front, so there's the Reapers and the Dreadfiend in the flank, and I'm on 21 damage. How am I on 21 damage? Well, guess what? It's the Snake Eyes. It's probably those 2 dice right there. So that was lucky for me. I felt kind of like a redeeming factor for me being so stupid and giving up 2 flanks in a game that I didn't need to. So at least I got a double 1s, which is not. I shouldn't be rewarded for my stupid tactics, but there you go. I do feel rewarded. What didn't survive this turn, unfortunately, and there was no double 1s to save them, were the Horde that was once here. So the Horde Legionaries are gone, the Fiends are let loose, but they really don't have much health, so it's just going to take a cheeky lightning bolt or something to get rid of them. But if you look over here, ᴰᴜʀᴜ is gone. Didn't take a picture of her because, what's the demise of an individual anyway? So ᴰᴜʀᴜ is gone, the Stormbringer went back into her, and she already had 6 damage, so she didn't have much more to give. And he does have Brutal, so What's happening over here, though, I am taking a charge from Butchers. So the Butchers have gone into my Hellstrikers, and they've got 5 damage on them, 1 back from the Life Leech. Can they survive? I don't know. And off go the Scarecrows to, capture objectives. So lots of combats going on. And unfortunately for the... Unfortunately, no. That's just a picture to show that they got out of that situation. 3 damage here, so yeah, Shadow Hounds, once they're not charging fresh, they're not doing very well. And unfortunately, the Hellstrikers couldn't take all that Butcher damage, so it's now just up to the Stormbringer to take on these Butchers, which are still at full health. Terrifying. Turn 6. So fights just keep happening. You might think there's a scenario, but I'm just trying to get rid of stuff so that I can be part of it. Now, this is I guess, yeah. I probably mentioned at the start that this thing has 8 attacks, but a lot of people forget that this thing has 8 attacks. The Shrine is a bit of a combat beast, because yeah, he's a Shrine, he just casts spells the whole game, he looks like he wouldn't do anything in combat, but I guess it is just a big hunk of rock that can just go at moderate speed through you, and that's what it's doing. So it got a rear charge on those Fiends, which were obviously facing potentially the Hellstrikers still surviving, but they did not survive, so therefore they probably didn't need to face that way. But then they didn't want a Stormbringer in the rear, so instead they get a Stormforged Shrine in the rear, and so they don't have much health anyway, so a Lightning Bolt would have done the trick probably, but here I am. And part of this was also that I can start getting into that hold the line zone. And so that's just flings me up here, and I'm unit strength 2 because I am a Titan, so not a bad situation. Over here to deal with the Reapers, well, my completely devastated unit does go back into the Dreadfiend, because I realise I do gotta try and take out that Dreadfiend even with half attacks, and hoping that the Reapers can be then killed, because I've already got damage on them from that previous flank attack. So the War Drum going into a flank, the Ambrox in a rear, that's quite a lot of attacks. They're not very good attacks, but it's at least a number of them that's higher than 5. And yeah, then I've just got my countercharge of the Reborn and the Riftforged to help get through, because I realise that these poor guys, they just don't have enough attacks to really punch through, perhaps. It just takes one unlucky roll and they'll just not do much damage, and then maybe the Shadow Hounds will break through. And lucky as I am, I do kill the Reapers, I do kill the Shadow Hounds, and I do kill the Fiends. Not very hard, all of them had a bit of damage on them anyway, but I've managed to wipe out a lot, and I now have quite a bit of the center to myself. Huzzah! I just need to keep my devastated unit around, so we'll see if it can survive Andy's turn 6. Turn 7, so it didn't, because I didn't get a picture of that. Yeah, turn 7, the Dreadfiend obviously killed that regiment, and this is where the situation is. So that was in his turn 6. So we have my Titan here in the middle, unit strength 2, and Ambrox unit strength 1, this is unit strength 1, and this, obviously the right side is taken with the Scarecrows, they've got that. The Butchers are over here, which are unit strength 3, and I think that my my Titan is actually in that same left area, so currently it's unit strength 1, Stormbringer you can't see off the left side, plus the unit strength 2 counter, so that means that this is, no one has this left zone, because it's 3 versus 3. The middle is 2 versus 1, so I have that one, and then if I can get these guys in, that would be really exciting, but unfortunately I can't, because they just took their time to kill those Shadow Hounds just a little bit too long. And so, to get in there, we need to kill this Dreadfiend to move forward in my turn 7, so that's the combat that's ensuing here, but it just doesn't go very well. He's only got 1 damage on him from the previous devastated unit, and I need to take out these Butchers, but where I was positioned, I couldn't get a good charge in. So this is the place that I'm sitting, and I didn't want to really charge him in and then just lose him, because the problem is he has to be able to charge in and take them out, the Stormbringer. And if he charges in and just stands there and lets them counter-charge, like flip around, counter-charge and kill him, then I lose that 1 unit strength and suddenly it's 3 versus 2. So I'm actually just trying to keep my Stormbringer alive, and the Shrine's just sitting here. It can't really move much, and I know he might charge, but the Shrine's dash 18, so it's actually quite hard to kill with that defense 5. So can I kill that Dreadfiend? Spoiler warning, I didn't. Whereas the Butchers did try their luck of charging in here, but they didn't kill the Shrine either. And so there's the Dreadfiend, 9 damage. It was wavered, but wavered doesn't mean anything at the end of the game, so I do not get to jog on through and win the Olympics. And that's where it ended. But actually, was it my victory? It was not. So we were actually thinking, oh yeah, I win. Wonderful. And then Mike, who was Mike Crossman running the event, was just watching. It's like, I don't know about that. And so we actually measured some of the lines here. And it turns out that while, yes, this is contested, and yes, he had this one, my bloody little, my war drum, I didn't move it up. So it wasn't actually in range. So this part middle was just contested, 1 and 1. And so the Scarecrows, by themselves, won the game because they got that distant rightmost area that I didn't contest whatsoever. And so I think I was just more thinking like it was a bigger area, like control. Like it was a control size square in the middle, but actually it wasn't. It was just a normal, like a very narrow 12-inch wide area in the middle. And so, yeah, it was because of that I didn't actually get that middle area. So, yeah, it ended up being Andrew's victory, and yeah, this is where it all ended, right here. Because I think then in his turn, he just moved back, because that's all a wavered unit can do, just get out of the way, and he was in. I should have taken a proper picture at the end of the game, but I think we were just kind of like, oh yeah, it's it, and I didn't need to take any more pictures, and then, no, it's not it, because the war drum was not in range. So, if I have any advice for anyone playing Hold the Line, you definitely need to make sure as you're putting your units into place for that final, chance to claim each objective, you measure exactly where that is, because I did not. I just kind of eyeballed it and went, yeah, and you know what? My eyeball said the line. I thought the line was here, but actually the line was here, and I was not wholly within at all. I was touching it. I was definitely like a little bit on it, but I wasn't wholly within. And so yeah, that's a very silly way to lose a game, because otherwise I thought I was doing really well. I killed lots of things. I managed to hold out against the Nightstalker menace, and then I just stuffed it up at the end. So yeah, but it makes for an interesting tale and a cautionary tale for those watching. So hopefully you don't make the same mistake. So that's one game won, one game lost, then it's one more game to play for the day. So far I'm getting pretty used to my Riftforged Orcs. I'm getting used to the way they run, and so all I need to do is not make stupid mistakes and keep on top of my army. This game I was actually doing pretty well with the clock, so I'm quite proud of that. And so I'll only get faster as I play on. Mainly what I'm using most of my brain power is trying to figure out where my big bases go and how they fit together, and also just trying to keep track of how my Stormforged Shrine is going as it casts through its spells, but also explain it to my opponent so it doesn't just look like I'm cheating and just casting all the spells for fun. So you do want to have a level where you can do it correctly and also keep your opponent informed about how you're doing it correctly. No, they don't just look at you and just go, this guy's just rolling whatever he bloody likes. So, I find that's an important thing to do. So that's the game, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you don't mind seeing Riftforged Orcs quite a bit. There will be one more game, at least in this format, with Riftforged Orcs, and then there'll be another one with Riftforged Orcs, which is a live game against Kingdoms of Men. Can you believe it? And then, well, who knows? I've just got to get more people over to my house of horrors to play against either Riftforged Orcs or as I'm fixing them, the Trident Realms. I'd like to get my Trident Realms back on the table. So until then, make sure you all keep caffeinated. Oh, and like and subscribe. I gotta say that, otherwise you won't do it. Bye!